Good morning and welcome to Monday, March 21st, 2022's 9 o'clock strategic planning meeting. Welcome everybody. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Kearns and Commissioner Cuny are here, our executive management team. And then I know we've been joined by Dr. Vina Zing. And Vina, I'm going to let you're first on our agenda to talk about the medical examiner's office. And so I'm going to let you go ahead and start our briefing. I'm not seeing you unmute.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to join you this morning. I want to share with everyone some exciting opportunities that are in front of the medical examiner's office right now and get some guidance on how we can proceed with meeting these opportunities. I think you guys have my slideshow. Can we show the first slide? And as you guys know, Spokane County has the only medical examiner office on the east side of the state. And the medical examiner offices in Washington are shown in yellow on this map. And having the only office on this side of the state means that we are the only county on this side of the state with the medical and technical expertise to offer autopsy services. All the other counties in the state, and that's the counties in blue and orange on the map, have coroners. And so they have to contract outside their counties for autopsy services. Can we get the next slide? And this map, didn't come through, sorry about that. But this map shows you all the counties in Washington with in orange and orange, the counties, coroner counties that currently contract with Spokane County for autopsies. And then the next slide shows us where the other coroner counties are taking their cases when they utilize medical examiners' offices. So many of these counties also use the services of private contractors, and those are pathologists who travel around the state performing autopsies in funeral homes or other non-medical examiner facilities. But recently, many of these traveling pathologists have retired. It's a tough life to just drive around the state and do this. So they've taken fixed positions in medical examiners' offices, or many of them have retired in the last year or two. And that has markedly increased the caseload for King County and Snohomish County. Those are the counties that are bearing more of the burden of doing these cases. Recently, because of staffing and other issues, these offices have had to limit the number of contract cases they can accept. And so this is leaving a void in autopsy services, particularly on the east side of the state. And increasingly, there are situations where a particular county can't find somebody to do an autopsy for days or sometimes even weeks. And I mean, if deaths can't be properly investigated and criminal activity can't be properly addressed, then this is a regional problem that will inevitably affect Spokane County. And as I see it, our amazing facility that we have, our wealth of knowledge and technical expertise, all of that puts us in a good position to expand our offerings to offer autopsy services to more counties in Eastern Washington and to grow our role as a regional center of excellence for death investigation. Can we get the next slide? At the same time, we've seen a sustained increase in Spokane County cases. From 2019 to 2020, there was a 22% increase in autopsies. From 2020 to 2021, there was a 27% increase in autopsy cases. And then just looking at year over year, from last year to this year, the same time period, where our autopsies are up 16% over this time last year. So there isn't a sign of anything slowing down here in our own county. Next slide. So looking at our current and anticipated workload growth, I would like to make a case for hiring a fourth forensic pathologist, and that would give us the most flexibility in meeting county and regional needs. And as you can see from my primitive demand versus capacity growth, we're already understaffed for our existing contract work. So if we aren't able to expand our capacity by hiring another pathologist, we're going to have to start actually shrinking our regional footprint by letting go of some of those contract counties. And just for Spokane County alone, in a few years, we may be understaffed even just for the internal county needs. Our autopsy capacity, just as a side note, is limited by the cap placed on autopsy numbers by the National Association of Medical Examiners. They limit the cases to 250 autopsies per pathologist per year. We can exceed that number for a year, maybe 2 years, but if we continuously exceed the cap, we are at risk of losing our national accreditation. And this is something that, as you all know, is rare and valuable. Not very many offices have such an accreditation. The office worked really hard to get it. I don't want to be responsible for losing it. So it's important to keep that. And aside from accreditation, I want to avoid overloading the pathologists we have. The more we exceed the 250 autopsy cap, the more we risk people burning out, potentially leaving. There's a severe and worsening shortage of forensic pathologists. So there's a lot of competition for pathologists. If we can avoid losing the ones we have, I would also like to do that. Obviously, we need to prioritize Spokane County needs, but I think there are also a lot of advantages to maintaining and growing our regional presence. It will offer us another platform to highlight what Spokane County has to offer, the resources that we have here. It also positions us to receive state and federal investments to develop these resources even more. We've recently received a $600,000 award from the State Department of Commerce to update our facility and equipment. Recently received a $72,000 grant from the State Department of Health for public health emergency preparedness. And on Friday, I just received word that we've been awarded a $1,125,000 grant from the State Health Resources and Services Administration via a community project grant. So this is very exciting. Any improvements that are made to our facility and equipment with these grants obviously will benefit Spokane County. And then also increasing our geographic footprint will increase the cases and experiences we can offer our interns, our medical students, other learners that come through the office. And it will potentially position us to receive additional state or federal grants to develop our educational programs. Can we get the next slide? Over the past several months, I've had a series of discussions within the office, with the Medical Examiner Advisory Board, with Scott, now with Mike, in which we have discussed the pros and cons of growing the office. All interested parties have endorsed the ideas of expanding the medical staff, continuing to develop the office into a regional center of excellence. There are some challenges, though, to adding another pathologist. As you're probably aware, there is the shortage that I mentioned of forensic pathologists. This on the left side of the screen is a snapshot of the job posting list on the National Association of Medical Examiners website. 50 open jobs posted as of Friday. Several more vacancies that the postings have expired because they've been open for so long. On the right side of the screen are some recruitment costs for my recruitment a couple of years ago, or at the fall of 2020. It's costly to find and recruit pathologists. And then of course, if you are able to find and recruit somebody, you have to pay them a salary. This is not in our budget for the year, so we would require an infusion of funding for this year to kind of get as startup costs to get this up and running. Next slide. But there is good news. So every 6 months, we are reimbursed by the state for 30% of each pathologist's salary. So for 1 year, the reimbursement for the three of us would total to just about or a little bit over the salary of one deputy medical examiner. This won't cover their benefits, of course, but we are pretty close to the grand opening of our tissue procurement room, and the rental fees from that will be returning to the general fund, hopefully to offset some of our additional costs. The portion of the pathologist time spent doing referral cases will be reimbursed via autopsy fees that we charge the referral counties. And the best news of all is that if you agree that we want to grow the medical examiner's office and we get permission to hire a fourth pathologist this year, I can save us the $14,000 plus in recruitment costs. And that is because I've been approached by a pathologist who's in the last year of his forensic training. He's got family here in Spokane and he's very interested in coming to work here. I met with him last fall. We recently had him in the office just for an informal meet and greet 2-day visit so he could see the operations, we could get to know him. And he is a really great candidate. We're very lucky to have him drop into our laps like this. He's finishing his training in July. He's already got several job offers because of the shortage. And that's why I wanted to bring you up to speed on all of this today and seek your permission to move ahead with making him an offer. I know I'm talking fast. I've thrown a lot of information at you. I don't know if there's any questions at this point. The second part of our plan to grow into a regional center of excellence is to address our fee schedule and make sure that it is up to date and is covering the costs of doing business, so that we can be sure that Spokane County citizens are not subsidizing the cost of doing outside county work. And to that end, I've been spending a lot of time analyzing the actual costs incurred, assessing the percentage of costs that can be attributed to outside county work, and then using that as a basis for moving forward, looking at our fee schedule. And this analysis was based on a really beautiful granular breakdown of our 2021 staffing, maintenance, and operation costs that the budget office provided me. And then I added to that the cost of replacing some of our morgue equipment, the more expensive stuff and the stuff that breaks down a lot, amortized over the lifespan of that equipment. And then I operationalized the whole shebang to reflect if we were to increase our staffing in the near future, would the fees cover all of those costs? So for the next couple of slides, I just want to sort of step you through that calculation or how I looked at it. So if we could look at the next slide. Just looking at autopsy only and making sure that the base costs were the same exam to exam, whether it's in county or out of county. So these are the 12-month actual costs for staffing plus staffing, adding a pathologist. Potentially in the future, we may need to add another pathologist assistant, an autopsy technician. So I stuck that in there too. So for 4 pathologists, 4 autopsy assistants, this would be the cost for each exam. And you see that's the same, whether it's a Spokane County exam or an outside county exam. Next slide. When you start layering on the admin time, that's where you start seeing the costs diverge because there's a lot more administrative work associated with Spokane County cases. It's not just handling the casework now at this point, but it's also interfacing with families at the funeral homes, returning personal effects to family or their representatives, uploading information about death certificates into state databases and so on. So you can see that the costs are a little bit different here. And then next slide. When you layer on the investigative time, then that's where the costs really start to diverge because our investigators really are not involved in outside county cases, although I did put an investigator in their column just in case in the future their role does grow. But there are very rare circumstances in which they would actually be involved in those cases. They do a lot of autopsy and non-autopsy tasks though for Spokane County, so that's where the bulk of the investigator time is focused. And then next slide. This reflects our maintenance and operation costs, and then additional lines added and money added to different funds for the cost of replacing equipment such as bone saws, keeping if we were to have to replace our x-ray scanner, that type of thing. So that's all included in there. And together with the staff fees, that we've arrived at a total of about $17.90 per autopsy. And that's to make sure that everybody is sharing in the cost of the facility upkeep. Next slide. So that, just rounding up for tidiness, that gives us a fee of about $1,800 for a basic autopsy. And then I've added in there incremental increases for as the examinations become more complex or they require more than the average amount of time to determine the cause of death, to document injuries, to collect evidence on a case, that type of thing. So this would be our new fee schedule. In the little box to the left of the slide, you can see what our current fee schedule is. That's the cost for all comers, any type of case. And so if you all agree, the other ask I have today is to move towards sharing our new fee schedule with our existing contract counties first, and then making it available once we have the infrastructure in place to take on more referral work, then we make it available to other counties that may want to send us cases. I think that's all my slides. Pretty sure that's all I sent you. So that's what I have. Any questions for me?
So, Dr. Zing, just on that last one, so our fees actually are going down than they were currently.
Right, does that make sense? Yeah, so it is technically going down. So that's for the base autopsy would be a lower cost than what we are charging right now. What I have observed, though, is that we very rarely get the basic cases from the coroner counties. They will most often handle those cases themselves. The ones that they send us are the homicides, their infant death cases, complex cases. So really more often what we would be charging them is this $2,200 fee, most likely based on what I've observed since I've been here. So it wouldn't really be going down in actual fact, but on paper it does look, yeah, part of the reason for that is to encourage them to send more of these cases that perhaps should get an autopsy but are currently not getting an autopsy, just with an eye to raising the level of death investigation again in the region.
Okay, thank you. I have some more questions, but Josh, I don't know if you want to go first.
Yeah, so I want to just some clarification. So, I think if I remember back, I think this was a pre-COVID. We had one of your predecessors in kind of talking about the autopsy services that we provide for the surrounding counties, and when we asked, do we recover our cost for those? At that time, the answer was no. So with a lower fee, are you certain we're gonna recover our costs on these autopsies?
I do think so. I've stepped through this with the budget office and they think so also, but I'm happy to look at it further, and I don't know if we want to build in more potential future costs also. Just I feel like it's a good practice to maybe look at these every couple of years, certainly. So what we could do is launch this and then reassess. Maybe, we can, I don't think we're locked into a fee for any particular length of time, but yes, I do for sure want to make sure that we are covering all of our costs. Okay, yeah, because I don't want us to be subsidizing the cost for other counties. Absolutely. So that's sort of one of my main concerns. So
this is a really good conversation, and to Commissioner Kern's question, I think it was fair to say we probably didn't know if we were covering the costs of our services to outside counties. And so Vina, with Gary's team, has done a really great job putting together a framework for evaluating, understanding our cost structure, the services that are provided to other counties. One unique thing is they don't do a lot of investigator services for the other counties. Sometimes there's a little work done, as Dr. Singh has highlighted, but I think what we have now is a very good understanding of our costs that we incur across the medical examiner's office, the level of service that we're providing for the basic, the complex, plus any kind of add-on services that Vina has included in the fee schedule. And I think we position ourselves to have a great deal of better confidence in knowing what we are charging and incurring for costs to ensure that we're having cost recovery on there. And as Dr. Singh mentioned, it is we have underlying interlocals with these other counties, and that fee structure can and would be evaluated on a regular basis and revised accordingly to make sure that we're keeping up with our costs. So I think they've got a really good framework of a financial evaluation for ensuring that we're not having a negative consequence on our county residents.
Great. So a couple of questions I have for you, Dr. Zhang, and I have the opportunity at the medical examiners advisory committee meeting to see all this. So, so Josh, I had a chance to see it ahead of you. So that's why I think I knew the answer to some of those questions. But one of the things, so you said you just got a new grant on Friday for 1.25 million. Is that correct? So
Yeah.
what is that for?
So this is actually the commissioners had submitted this request. This was, so you remember way back when there had been an ask for a CT scanner that we had submitted to the Commerce Department. And they ended up awarding only half of that amount, which was not enough for a CT scanner. And so that's the 600,000 that I had mentioned. We are still getting that money, but we're currently in conversation with the Commerce Department to see if we can use that for other equipment, to modernize other equipment. In the meantime, you all had resubmitted the request now to the Health and Services Administration. And we just found out that they've closed that their cycle for this year, and they've awarded the entire amount. So that's what I found out about on Friday. So this was it's again to modernize equipment, and we had submitted a list of potential things that we would like to ask for, some of which we now may get through the other grant. But it's never a bad problem to have, right? To have too much money to spend. So
No,
I think.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited because I know you've been talking about that CT scanner and how much that would help you guys. And so I'm super excited that that's the grant. That's what I was hoping you were going to say when you were saying the number. I'm like, I think that's about the number of that piece of equipment. So
it's
that's
exactly
really
that. Yes. So yes, we can really, I want to move forward and work with Inland Imaging. That's our group that we contract with for radiology support with our LODOPs. And I'm hoping to put some things into place where they can help us in exchange for, having their residents and medical students come here for learning, that they can help us get the CT scanner, keep it up and running, and get it all tuned up. So it's an exciting opportunity for us.
No, that's exciting. And then can you talk about what you think the other $600,000 is going to go to? Because I think that's really exciting for your office and for our community, for law enforcement, for all of that. So I wasn't sure if you could talk about it or not. So
sure, absolutely, yeah. So I'm hoping this is, again, our new list has been submitted to the Commerce Department, and I don't see why they wouldn't approve these things, but I'm not sure all the parameters on spending. But I can tell you that some of the things we've submitted for are some machines that will do tabletop testing for toxicology. So basically real-time toxicology testing. And this, it will be a marked improvement over waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 months for the state toxicology lab to get us results back. So we'll be able to say in real time what someone overdosed on, or if they overdosed, and share that information not only with families, but with law enforcement, with other interested parties, just for overdose surveillance in our community. And I can tell you that the reason for our 16% increase over last year, almost all of that is overdose cases. So to be able to get a better handle on what's happening, are there new drugs coming in? Are these the same old drugs? Are there ways that we can intervene, in educating people or diverting drugs or whatever the case may be? To have that data is going to be really amazing to have. So we are submitting for 3 of those machines so that we can run them. We get a lot of cases, as you know, so we can run those, not burn them out too quickly. What else? So we're going to ask for some training equipment, so mannequins and other things, so that we can do some training for death investigators. And eventually, I would like to, as part of our Regional Center of Excellence plan, offer training to law enforcement, to EMS, or emergency medical services, to other coroner investigators and medical examiner investigators on death investigation, scene investigation. And to have these mannequins is going to be a big help for that. What else? There's such a list of things that we're going to ask for some equipment that we can retrofit our medical examiner vehicle for in the event that there was a mass fatality. One of the weak links that has been shown around the state is transport of bodies from the scenes. So if we can retrofit our own vehicle, we can pitch in and help with transportation on that. And then just some basically some of our refrigerators and freezers in the building are of an age that they're going to be breaking down pretty soon. So we're going to try to replace some of that aging equipment and breaking down equipment.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I mean, to me, the toxicology machines, if we can get those, is going to be huge. As you said, I mean, for families, for law enforcement, and really to educate the community, because if we're seeing this, higher overdose, it's getting that information out to the community so that people can be aware and, hopefully not, get the street drugs and all those things that is causing the issues, especially with young, high school kids, and
right.
That's such an issue. So
it really is, yeah. And increasingly we're seeing, I don't want to say older because it's not really old, but like the 60+ age range, where we didn't used to see overdoses in that range. But I really, there's so many factors I think going into it, and being able to say in real time, this is happening, instead of, well, 6 months ago this happened, that's going to be a real big shift in what we can share. So
yeah, no, so I'm super hopeful and that will help. So thank you very much. So the ask today is asking if you can move forward with that 4th medical examiner. Just want to make sure. So I guess my one question is how much do we have? I mean, will it cost us on the upfront side? I know we get reimbursed partly, and then they'll be doing autopsies too, for contract services. How much additional cost do you think that is going to cost to Spokane County?
So the cost really will be that person's salary from August to December. I would need to calculate that number, but in December we would submit for the reimbursement for all 4 of us actually. But so some of that in December we would be reimbursed, but there would be the upfront cost of pay. So he doesn't finish his training until July. He would probably start in August. So we would need to pay his salary August, September, October, November, December. So five months worth of salary upfront and benefits upfront. Now the tissue procurement stuff, I anticipate that will get up and running within a month. I think they're really close to hammering out all the contracts. So there'll be this upfront infusion from us into the general fund, or through us into the general fund, starting pretty soon. So maybe that will pad the upfront cost a little bit, but there will be some costs. As hard recruitment, he's already basically recruited himself, so we won't have to worry about those costs. No,
and I think that's the thing, is like timing, because of the fact that he does want to come to Spokane, but he doesn't have to come to Spokane.
Right.
It's that, timing to try to catch him while we can.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is the reason actually I'm bringing it to you now rather than in a few months, is that this guy has basically dropped into our laps. And so now it's an issue of, can we put everything into place to capture that gift rather than let him kind of slip through our fingers? So, I mean, there are jobs open in Snohomish, in Clark County, in Pierce County, in Multnomah County, in Portland. I mean, everywhere in the Northwest, as well as everywhere across the country. So if we have this person ready and willing to come here, I feel like if we can, we should move on to him.
Yeah, I guess I'm leaning that way. You have, I mean, with the new facility and really having it be state of the art, and as we get this new equipment in, I mean, I just think you guys are doing a great job. We're not seeing a decrease in deaths. Our population's growing, which means, we're going to have an increase in deaths as well, just due to population increase. So I would be happy to move forward with that. On the contract with the other counties, I would want to probably try to put an annual review in to look at what have our budget office and analyze the costs. So that way we know on an annual basis, at least for the first couple of years, and then we could probably stagger it out, as we, kind of make this shift, just so we know that we're not subsidizing the other counties. So I would want to have that in the contract, that we look at that on an annual basis, so that way we know from that perspective. But so that's my comment on the contract, and then I'm willing to move forward on looking to get the 4th medical examiner. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, can I ask Gary, have you crunched the numbers to see what the annual impact would be on the general fund?
Well, as being stated, there'd be some upfront cost for 2022, and just back of the napkin calculation here, that might cost us in a fronting phase about $50,000 maybe. But then there's recovery of those amounts from charges for services for the autopsy. So there's an offset there. So how that would work would be predicated in future years on the number of outside autopsies that we're able to do for other counties too. So I don't have that penciled out for 23 yet, but as we get more data, then we'll be able to plug that in for our 23 budget.
All right, so are you comfortable with this concept?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, well then, yeah, no, I'll give the thumbs up to start moving forward.
Thank you.
Scott?
So there's always going to be a little bit of a timing on hiring a forensic pathologist and the volume that we're seeing. That's just the nature of our business. So as Vina said, we can kind of have a little period of time where we're over the 250 autopsies a year, but we don't want to do that too long. So as we're growing and looking to take on other counties, be that regional center of excellence, we're always going to have a little bit of a timing of hiring someone ahead of where we have the full volume, and then them taking on a little bit beyond the recommended number of autopsies a year. But I think this is the right time, as Vina highlighted. She's continued to see increases in the autopsies in her office, not only for Spokane County, but for other ones as well. So we want to make sure we're positioning her to continue to be successful with it. So I think this is the right time. And as she's done the evaluation and Gary's looked at it, I think it makes sense. We do want to, and I think it's really great that Vina's had some informal reach outs to an interested candidate, but we'll want to make sure, Vina, that you're connecting with Ashley to make sure we're going through the recruiting process, the posting process, all those sorts of things. So we're following and staying in lockstep with our recruiting practices as well. So connect with Ashley's team and they'll make sure we get the posting put out there and help you kind of move this thing forward now that the commissioners are giving you the head nod.
Awesome. Okay. Great.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And Vina, I'm very excited to hear that we have someone who's already interested. As we all know, Spokane is not always the easiest market to recruit into. So let's get connected. We will post it per our policy for a week, internal and external. You never know. We might have somebody else who wants to throw their hat in the ring. But definitely let's work together and get this going. I'm super excited to know that we have people who are interested in coming to Spokane.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. All right.
Great,
Any
thank
other-
you. Yeah, no, I think we're good. Thank you,
Okay,
Dr. Singh.
awesome. Thank you all so much. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, next we have, I see Kevin Norris. I don't see Becky. Okay.
Becky's out today.
Okay, so Kevin, you're going to give us a briefing on, I'm going to let you say it.
Just an extension. It's a new contract, but an extension of our Pictometry aerial imagery, the package that we use here at the county. I do have a presentation. If somebody can bring up the first slide of that, that would be great.
Great.
Okay, here's a few introductory points to our Pictometry imagery package. You probably have all seen Pictometry when you use Spokane County's Scout application or any of the maps you see around the county that have imagery as a part of it. That's all developed through with our Pictometry imagery. The county's been using Pictometry since 2010. Initially used as a productivity tool for our assessor's office and building and planning specifically, but immediately Public Works, Sheriff, and Emergency Services and Environmental Services made use of this as well. Pictometry is our standard de facto imagery package that we use. It's integrated into all of our GIS and mapping applications. We provide maps for engineering companies, for prosecutors and public defenders to use in court. We provide again, all of the imagery that you see out on Scout when you do look at houses or anything like that. But more importantly, within the county, the assessor's office in particular, they use this product integrated into their ProVal, their computer assisted mass appraisal system, and their CamaCloud, their field gathering appraisal tool or assessment tool to get very high quality information into the system. And one of the great points with Pictometry is that it has a tool set that is integrated with those that can do measurements, that can measure length, width, height of things. It can also just provide area information regarding property boundaries. So it's a really extremely useful tool. And it's, it's essentially used by everyone that looks at a map, citizens within the county as well. The county partners, the cost of Pictometry is fairly expensive. We do partner with the city of Spokane for cost sharing purposes. And additionally, as we get imagery, we have other agencies, other jurisdictions that want this imagery as well. And we do third-party agreements with those agencies, and we recoup some revenue, and then we split that accordingly with our partner. We've already got requests from Fairchild Air Force Base, City of Spokane, and the City of Airway Heights already wanting our imagery for 2022 when we get that later this fall. Next slide. The acquisition, implementation, and budget of this product. We started out trying to secure, at the same time we started in August, working with our vendor, EagleView, for the Pictometry product for the renewal of this. And we also started looking at cost sharing opportunities. We have to do this every 6 years or every time we go through this process. It took us 7 months to secure a cost sharing partnership with the City of Spokane. And also we finalized our agreement with EagleView actually prior to getting the signed ILA with the city. But we had to wait until Casey Evans providing legal advice. We really needed to wait until we had that cost sharing partnership ILA agreed to with the city. In the past, we've always agreed to the contract and got it in place and then went out searching for partners. Legal advice this time was, don't do that. Let's get a cost sharing partner on board before we move forward with the contract. Also, we closed up some loopholes to ensure that we're not left holding the bag in any way, shape, or form. If the City of Spokane opts to opt out, they really can't unless we agree to that. So I think we have a much better ILA in place this year than we had in either of our previous 6-year terms. Implementation schedule. How this works is EagleView flies Spokane County 3 times over a 6-year period. Flights are already on the schedule for spring of 2022, April, May, spring of 2024, and spring of 2026. It takes about 4 to 5 months for that flight imagery to go through the process of QC, quality control, where it's a back and forth between different departments here at the county, specifically IT and the assessor and some public works input as well, to validate that measurements, alignment, everything is all right with the imagery. And then we, once that's all in place, we will then get the final product, usually in September or October of the same year. So 2022 imagery that's flown this spring, you would expect to see that on maps, on our applications by October of this year. And the same with those other flights, be October of the years that they're flown. One of the things that happens every year is that they'll come and fly our entire county, and Mount Spokane will still be covered with snow oftentimes, and they have to come back and do some reflights. Typically, we can have everything pretty much quality control checked prior to having those last images done, and it's a pretty quick wrap once we get once the snow melts enough to see all of the improvements up around Mount Spokane. Budget for this project is $774,611. That's over a 6-year period. The City of Spokane's cost share is $362,486.34. County's cost share is $412,124.66. The reason for that difference, the reason why the county pays more, is that the city would not go for a 50-50 cost share agreement. They wanted to share based on area, and the city of Spokane doesn't take up much area in Spokane County. We wouldn't agree to that. What we finally agreed upon was a cost sharing scenario based on 2020 census population. The population of the county in 2020 US National Census totals were just under 540,000 for the county total, whereas the city population is about 230,000. I have the exact numbers, but the percentage breakout is the county pays 57.54% and the city pays 42.46%. We did agree upon that. Any cost sharing, such as when the city of Spokane or the city of Spokane Valley purchases the imagery based on a third-party agreement, Spokane County will recoup all of that revenue. None of that will be shared with the city of Spokane, since city of Spokane Valley is entirely in Spokane County. None of it's in the city of Spokane. So, that's how this all works. If we can go to the next slide.
Kevin, before you go.
Yeah,
before
any
you go to the
questions?
next slide, yeah, Gary Petrovus has his hand up.
Gary.
Hi, Kevin. I just wanted to clarify a point on the budget. You said it's 774,000 over a 6-year period. That's not each year, right? That's for the entire 6-year
Yeah, that's
period.
for the entire lifespan of the product. Our first year is about $68,000 for the county.
Exactly. And with a 20% reimbursement, our net cost to the county would be about 55,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it'll be even more. I think there's a great chance that Shrek will want this product, and if they do, we will recoup essentially a third back with one third-party agreement.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Other questions at this point?
Yep, I think we're good.
Okay. What I have here is just a top-down ortho imagery using Pictometry of a parcel that our assessor's office goes to frequently to basically calibrate their measuring tools that are within the product. You'll see that on the ribbon at the top of the screen, there's a little toolbox there. That is used to measure and do other things, and that's all integrated from this product. But with a tennis court, we know the exact measurements of what a tennis court is, and we can ensure that our imagery is reflective and our measurements will be correct. So we kind of use this just as a typical, here's a perfect example of what something is and how it's measured and that it's accurate. Another thing that they will do is they will go to a lake and find a very calm day where it looks just like glass on a top down, and they'll measure all over that lake to measure that elevation is exactly the same across that water, just to ensure that their height measurement tools are accurate as well. And then go to the last slide. Okay, this is, I didn't pick a great thing for this, but I just show the same property from the bird's eye view, which is it's a proprietary product that Pictometry has that gives you a east-west, north-south, 4-angle, 45-degree view of this property. And where this really comes into play is with anything with vertical height. Like when you look at top down at a house, you may not know if that's a single level house or a 2-story house. So that's a really good tool to have. It also, in this case, on the picture on the right, you can see the berm that is built up around the tennis court on the left side of the tennis court. But what's really nice with this product is the tools that are used for measuring work with the oblique or bird's eye imagery as well. So the tool is a great product. We've been using it for 12 years. Our assessor would tell you that he couldn't live without this just because of the measuring capabilities that keeps his folks at their desk using equipment here, not driving their cars out in the field, saves them an immense amount of time. And it's also been found to be very useful. Our new Scott Chesney, our new planning director, has been making great use of this and really challenging us to help him develop some new tools for planning into the future, showing change scenarios from one map or one imagery set to another, what the growth patterns are here in Spokane County. So this product has been very valuable. We want to continue using it. And the ask today is that you will approve both the ILA and the contract with Eagle View. Are there any other questions?
So when is that? Is that on next
Should be on next week.
week's agenda?
Next week's agenda, I believe.
Okay. And Gina, can you get us a copy of the ILA? You know, just so I just like to take a look at it quick.
Yeah, and the ILA has been signed by the city of Spokane. We did not move forward with this until we had that in place. That
Okay.
was advised strongly by Casey Evans. So we followed that advice, and it was a long time in coming. They just approved the ILA and signed February 28th at one of their recent council meetings.
Great. Good to know. Okay, so they have already signed it. So
Yeah.
that's great. Okay, Josh, do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, thank you all for allowing me the time here to talk with you today. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have Chad Coles and Matt Zuricourt to give us a public works update. I see Chad. I don't see Matt.
I'm not seeing Matt either. It's funny how that works.
Isn't it though?
Well, since he's not here, let me stumble through the presentation for you. We just have a few items that we have to brief. Ron, do you have that?
There's two. Which one?
No. Let's try both of them.
Barker Road or 4th Avenue?
Barker is one,
Not that one.
or Baker. I'm sorry, it's not Barker. It should be Baker.
Oh, Baker.
And then let me look at my. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the establishment. So next slide, please. Let's pretend I'm Matt.
Let's see, and Deborah, I see that Deborah Firkins has raised her hand. I don't know if she needs to be part of this discussion.
You know, it wouldn't hurt to have Deborah here. So this is a new Plat Establishment in the kind of right up next to the city of Spokane, south of Spokane Valley on 41st. Next slide, please. Trickle Creek 4th edition. So the proposed establishment is for 41st Barnson Court. I think that's Burnson Court, excuse me. And all right, I'm not going to try that. It looks like bogey to me. But,
Yeah, that's what I would say.
I'm not sure I would have named the road that, but that's their choice. Anyway, that's the those roads are constructed and ready to be established in the Spokane County road system. Any questions on that one?
So is the addition, I guess, is the addition already done?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
already complete. Ron, can you go back one slide? I'm just trying to get a feel for it because I know kind of the area, but the first slide went pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. This is Glen Rose and 41st. Right in that area.
Okay.
So the proposed development for the soccer fields are just on that slide at 37th and Glen Rose right there.
Okay. Nope. Great. Okay.
All right.
So will that be a public hearing that comes before us?
This is, yes, this is just our process, unless the board would like to change that, has been to give you guys a heads up prior to putting this, putting consent item on to set the
Yes, no,
public hearing.
no. I mean, I don't want to change the process. I'm just making sure so that this will show up on Tuesday's agenda as we'll be setting a public hearing date on
Right.
Tuesday's agenda. Okay, thank you.
That might be worth a discussion though, because it'll be probably 3 weeks before we get a public hearing, and knowing how the volume of information you guys get, maybe it would be better to brief you on these just prior to the public hearing. Or do you like?
No, I prefer before we, even put it on the agenda to set it, just so that way, if we get people calling or questions, and then we know that it's coming and what it's about. So,
Perfect. We will continue this way then.
thank you. Deborah, I see you unmuted. Did you have a comment or were you waiting for another part of the presentation?
I'm waiting for his next slides on the property we have going for sale.
Okay, perfect.
So next slide, please. Actually, 2 more slides. Here we go. So here's, I'll hand this one to Deborah for to Shirley Road property.
Commissioners, I have an offer on the Shirley Sprague Avenue property. If you could go to the next slide. As you can see, it's on Sprague and to Shirley. We're missing just the corner. It's right next to our Old Milwaukee Railroad right-of-way, which the city of Spokane Valley has put a nice trail system through. I received a full price offer of $190,000, but in that purchase and sell agreement, they want us to agree to the agreement that they have with their real estate agent, which we do not do typically. But I cannot refuse their offer since I've been directed by the commissioners not to bring any offer to them that does not meet or exceed the appraised value. But you haven't told me I can't bring something that has a commission to it. I would suggest that you tell me that I have to tell them that we do not pay real estate commission. If they want to do that on the side with themselves paying it, that's fine, but we're not going to do that. What is the board's, would you like me to say that to the real estate agent?
I guess if it's our standard policy that we don't pay the real estate fees, commission fees, then I would reject the offer and let them know that that it would need to do that. When was the appraisal last done on this?
I just got it.
Okay.
So it's brand new.
Okay. Commissioner Kearns, your thoughts?
Yeah, if that's not our policy and we don't do that, then tell them.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Just a second, Deborah.
Yeah,
Scott.
Deborah, are
Yes.
they asking to only pay the whatever the half of the commission is for the buyer's rep?
What it does, what they put in the purchase and sell agreement says that we will be bound by whatever agreement that they have with their real estate agent. So I have not seen that, that contract and stuff. I would be blindly agreeing to that. If you want, I could go through and demand to see the copy of that agreement as well. But I will let you know that we previously had an offer on this property by these people for way low on the price. And Jerry had gone through, we said we would sell it at an older appraisal, but they rejected our offer and demanded that we get a new appraisal. So this is the new appraisal, but we've told them before that we do not pay real estate fees. So they did that. So
Yeah, I would agree. You can't blindly, do that. So I would be happy for you to go back and let them know
okay.
that we are rejecting their offer because of that piece of it, and they just need to put in a
All
different.
right.
Thank you.
If they give me a new offer without the real estate thing. I am up for advertising this and getting this all through. Is that okay for me to bring it forward and to continue the process if they give me a new offer today without that real estate provision?
I mean, I guess I would say as long as we're comfortable with the current, that it's a current appraisal,
Yes.
you know, just because of the way prices have gone, I would want to ensure that it was a current appraisal
It is.
by somebody you know, that's on our appraisal list. Then, yeah, because I mean, unless we have any other offers, I mean, do we notice it? I mean, I guess it's been out there so people know that it's been for sale for a while.
It has not actually been out notice for sale for a while. I just put it on our county website last week. So I haven't checked my voicemail to see if I've got any offers yet, but it could go.
I guess if they come back with a different offer, I would ask you to come back to the commissioners and let us know. I mean, we're back next week.
Okay.
So you can let us know then what is
What
happening.
goes on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then the next slide.
Commissioner Kearns, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. Look, next slide. Sorry. Next slide. This is all that property. And then this is a piece of property out on Bigelow Gulch Road. Next slide. This little tiny piece of property has just a garage on it, more like a shop. I've received an offer for this piece with a brand new appraisal of $125,000 on this piece. And I have two other interested parties for this piece of property, but I've only had one that gave me a offer at the $125,000. I'm expecting possibly a bidding war at the meeting of the county commissioners later. Are you guys okay with me bringing this before you? So I would be doing the notice next Tuesday.
So I guess remind me of the process.
So what the process is that first I have to do a notice, which will then be in the paper for 10 days. Then at the next hearing of the Board of County Commissioners, I will go through and announce the offer, that's how many offers I have in my hand, and suggest which one I think is the best out of those that we have in hand. Then the board will go through, the chair of the board will go through and ask the audience, is there anyone who would like to offer us more for this piece of property? And if nobody stands up, then the board will consider the offers that they have in hand. If somebody stands up and says that they want to offer more for this piece of property, it becomes an oral auction at that point. And anyone can bid, and the two highest bids that we get on the property, I have them fill out a purchase and sell agreement for it within the next 24 hours. And then at the following meeting of the Board of County Commissioners on that next Tuesday, I present to the board the offers that they actually put in writing to the board, and the board makes a decision on those offers only. And that is the process currently.
And so, Deborah, we're hoping to be back in public by April 11th, I believe is the date. So, because we are off the week before that, so I'd want to make sure that your timing is such that it would meet, you know, it would be after we're back open to public.
April 11th would be, I think I've got this one scheduled. I'm sorry, I'm getting out my calendar. So I would be announcing on the 29th. It would be April 12th. Yeah, so that would be open to the public then. April 12th is when it would be in front of you.
Okay, any other questions, Commissioner Kearns? Say then go ahead and move forward with the process. And you have you said a current appraisal on it as well.
I have a current appraisal on this piece.
And was this part of the right-of-way purchase? Is that?
Yes,
Acquired
we
it?
purchased and knocked down the house that belonged to this garage. And this is a remnant piece. This house, not house, this, what do you call it? This garage also has a well that is located on the adjoining property that we have an easement for that well. And so that is also part of this. The people next door are interested in purchasing the property, but I do not have a current offer from them at the appraisal.
But they'll be notified of the
Yes.
putting this on sale. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, next slide. This property is part of our old corral property. Next slide. And you see, they wish to purchase the 2 acres that are adjoining our county shop there. And in order for them to go through and grade the property that they have and to start their construction of this old corral site, the larger site that they purchased from us, they wish to go through and grade the 2 acres that you see up there. They think they might be able to get maybe possibly 3 housing lots out of that at the most. It is up on a cliff. So that would be this piece of property. They are offering us $91,800 for 2 acres up there. It is not a recent appraisal. It's based on the appraisal that we had when we sold the piece. It's based on the square footage of that property. And so the only people who could buy it, since we'd have to replat it if we were going to sell it to somebody else besides this group, because we'd have to do a SEG and an addition to their property in order to sell it. So that's what we're setting up right now. Would you like me to move forward with this?
Deborah, is this the property that, I don't know, several years ago, people put comments in that this was kind of, they used it as a trail property?
Yeah, they've gone through and they've been using it as a trail throughout to get down into our pit site, our old pit site. So our old pit sites, what they own right now is our old pit site.
Right. No, I just thought the neighborhood to the west of there. I just can't remember if this was the neighborhood that talked about that property as where they would go and walk their dogs and had a trail up there, and they wanted to keep it kind of in that natural state and not having to sell it. That's I'm just seeing if that was a recollection.
I think you're confusing that with another property.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure.
Because
I think, yeah, I don't think this is it, because to get to this, I mean, you got to cut through other people's properties to get to this. I mean, this is pretty well landlocked where this is at.
And this is also fenced through the whole perimeter. Not that people don't tear down the fences occasionally.
Okay, it must be a different property then that there is that those comments from. That's why I was just checking. So with that, I guess the question for me is, if we're going off an old appraisal, again, property has gone up in value over the last, several years. That, I mean, I think we have to do our due diligence to our citizens that we're getting a fair market value.
So you would like me to go through and get it reappraised for this section here?
I don't know if there's a way to just do a quick updating of the appraisal, but I mean, I think we, I think, land prices from 3-4 years ago are different than what they are today. And we need to make sure for our citizens that we're getting the current fair market value.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be some discounting because of, the nature of it and that kind of thing. But I mean, I think we've got to do our due diligence.
So, Commissioner, if I could, the Deborah mentioned some of the limitations on this property. It is very steep. I wouldn't go cliff. Deborah went to cliff, but it is a very steep piece of property, and it is only could only be utilized by this property owner in terms of access. That being said, it's worthwhile to verify. We used the entire square footage of the property. There was one common number for that entire property that we sold down below. It is very developable. I think there's probably, I think we may have pushed this one to the limit.
In their agreement, I mean, is it set that they had so much time to choose to purchase this property or not?
No, they actually approached us. We didn't imagine anybody would want this piece because it's difficult to access. And so they came in later and said, hey, we may have a way to utilize it.
Scott?
I have a question. The picture looks like there's some sort of communications tower up in the easterly corner, middle of it. What do we envision to either retain an easement or carve that out? What are we thinking about that?
That's a good, you got a good eye, Scott. That is a communication tower that was used by our sewer operations folks to communicate with the pump station farther to the north here and down the hill. They have relocated, they've changed their technology and so no longer need that tower.
So I would just ask, I don't know if it's hard to see on the picture here, the topology or topography, some topography, there we go. One of those words. As you said, it's fairly steep, and so I don't know if this is only one of the flat areas that would add some value to it, but it would be good just to make sure that doesn't have any other strategic significance for other communications needs. I'm thinking like law, public safety, that sort of thing. If that's a dead spot or if it's well covered, and we would never use it, great. But just it would be good just to have a double check and maybe have someone connect with Shrek on that one.
The county sheriff had their communications on that same tower, but they have since removed it and have no use for that.
Okay.
I guess I'm still with Scott that we should check with Shrek to just make sure that there's no need for that prior to contemplating selling it.
Hard to find when you lose it.
Okay. So your direction is for me to get hold of Shrek? I'm afraid I'm not familiar with it.
Spokane Regional Emergency Communications. You can connect with either Lori Markham or I'm spacing Bob's last name. Bob's there. He oversees all the technology towers. Schwett. Bob Schwett, yes. And both of them should be on, I think on our, I don't know if they're on our email system or not. But Lori Markham's the executive director. Bob Schwent is their technology director out there.
Okay. I'll get hold of them and find out if they have any use for the tower. In the meantime, if they don't have any use for that land, are you amenable to me selling it to them for the price that we have, or do I need to get some kind of updated appraisal?
I mean, I guess I still feel like, it's, I don't know. I would have to contemplate that, Deborah. My thought is that if it is land, I mean, I just have more questions surrounding it. So I'm not comfortable at the price that it was several years ago.
Okay, I will tell you that.
But I could get there based on, just understanding all the different nuances to it, but you're just kind of hitting me with those today. So I need to contemplate it just a little bit more. So
definitely.
So take the time to talk to Shrek, make sure of that, and then, we can just.
My problem is that if we don't sell it to him now, while he's going to go through and try to grade, he won't want it later because he's got to spend his money for grading right now. He's already behind the 8 ball waiting for us to get this going. So if I tell him it's going to take another couple of months for me to bring this forward, we might not be selling it to him at all. Is that okay?
But you could bring it forward next week.
Okay. But
I mean, we should be able to get this all figured out and handled and come back by next week. I guess it's disappointing to me that suddenly this is our emergency.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
he's known he's needed to be grading. I don't know where the holdup's been, but
Been us, but because we were.
has it been us?
Yeah, it's been us. We've been trying to figure out that tower for a while to make sure that we really weren't going to use it and stuff. But now I'll check this other group and make sure for that.
Okay.
My problem is trying to hit a hearing date, and so if I don't, if you guys are okay with me immediately going through and say that I find everything out for you by next Tuesday, would you allow me that Tuesday to put the notice in the paper, allow the notice to go forward so that we can hit the April 12th date for the hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Yeah, I think that gives 3 weeks to work through these outstanding issues. And I think likely you'll need about a week, Deborah, to probably resolve on the questions.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's all I had.
Okay. And I guess I would just, if this has taken us this long and we're the holdup, I mean, we need to be looking at our processes to try to ensure that we're being more timely. As we know, with increased interest rates as they're starting to go up, I mean, we need to be timely, with these things, so that way we can help get, development happen, get houses on the market, because we're going to start to see these costs going up for our citizens as interest rates go up. So it's going to be important that we're being timely ourselves. So that way we're helping provide that good customer service to our citizens.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you next week then.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's all we have.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. Okay. So next on our agenda is Todd Milkey giving us the Sheriff's Office update. Hi, Todd. Let me see you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Happy Monday. How are you?
Yeah, good.
So this one should be short and simple. Really, we want to present our kind of plan of action on this. If there are no objections, then I'm assuming we can proceed. If there are concerns, then we'll come back and try to address those. To give you a little bit of background on this is we have 2 rescue helicopters. One that both of them are maintained, they're certified, they're ready to fly. But this is our backup helicopter. So think of this as Rescue 2, if you will. It has been stored at the hangar of a private party, one of our pilots, at State Line, Idaho. This last fall, we acquired a lease, if you will, on a second hangar at Phelps Field after much delay, because we were waiting for the previous tenant to vacate. So that took a protracted period of time. We finally have both hangars available to us at Phelps Field. We'd like to consolidate all of our helicopters into one area. So what this requires is about an 8-minute flight from State Line, Idaho to Phelps Field. And again, what we've been doing is this person where the helicopter is currently stored has not been charging us, has been very generous with his ability to do that. And I know Chief Ellis is on the line as well and can fill in. So at this point, what we're trying to do is, again, transport this this helicopter from State Line to Phelps Field. In checking with risk management and Steve Bartell, we do not have commercial liability insurance on this. They do not sell commercial aircraft liability insurance in short periods of time. So you'd have to take out an annual policy that is about $18,000. And the other option that we have is, which we don't believe is really an option, is we can disassemble it and put it on a trailer, but then we'd have to go through the recertification process once it's reassembled, and so actually at a more extensive cost. So this takes us to probably our preferred option, and the one that Steve Bartell suggests, which is the county is self-insured. We can use the self-insurance umbrella to go ahead and cover the cost of the helicopter as well as any potential liability for this 8-minute flight, and we would be done. We have done that from time to time with other pieces of equipment that the county has had, where we just step forward and just acknowledge that piece of equipment comes under the umbrella, under the cover of the county's umbrella insurance policy. And so that's what we're suggesting, is that we'd like to move forward and go ahead and acknowledge that we are placing this helicopter under the umbrella policy of the county and go ahead and transport it from State Line to Phelps Field. We'd like a little bit of a time period to do that, maybe 3 days, 5 days, something like that, just to make sure we can coordinate with schedules of pilots as well as be aware of any weather conditions that may be out there. So I guess what we're presenting is if this sounds acceptable, and again, this was an option that Steve Bartell came up with, is if this is acceptable, then we'd like to go ahead and proceed. If there are concerns, then we would pull back and try to address those concerns. But at this point, like I said, that's really what we're trying to do. And we're really talking about 8 minutes of flight time for a helicopter that's been maintained and is certified as well as any of the other ones in the fleet. And it would be operated by one of the pilots that flies very, very frequently for us in all of the other airships.
Okay, thank you. Was Steve not able to join us today?
I believe he's in arbitration today, and he did say if we needed him to try to reach him on his cell phone, but he did have an arbitration scheduled this morning.
I think as long as I have, I would be okay. I would just want confirmation from Steve directly, since he is a risk manager director, to just say that this is his, what he recommends, that I'm good to go.
So I did forward to Ron email that we received from Steve that lays out the options. I also dropped these off at the offices, the board offices last week. So hopefully they've made their way to you. I think the only person I saw in person was Commissioner Kearns. So I believe Commissioner Kearns saw the email. I did leave it with Brenda. And then, like I said, I did email it to Ron. So I don't know if Ron can show that to people or not.
I forwarded to Gina and Scott.
We'll get it, Todd. Thank you.
I apologize if I'm not current on all my emails at this point in time, so I did not see that. So I will.
No worries. And I have a copy. I can run it over and drop it off to you momentarily.
Okay.
But it does spell out Steve's options for going forward.
Okay, I would like to just take a look at that. I apologize that I did not take a look at it before this meeting. So,
okay.
But I think, like I said, if he was here, it'd be easy just to say, Steve, you're okay. And like I said, he's our risk management director, and so I just want that confirmation from him, and then I'm good to go. So as soon as, I don't know how Commissioner Kearns feels.
And like I said, I can probably have this to you before your meeting concludes.
Awesome. Commissioner Kearns?
Yeah, no, Todd handed me a hard copy, and then yeah, Ron forwarded it on to me. And I mean, the way it reads, I mean, it's an email from Steve Bartell saying the only options would be transport by flatbed or other carrier. Or he says 2, with no commercial aircraft liability insurance available for short duration, identified the transportation need the BOCC and request the county self-insure the potential liability for a short one-day flight. And he says, I recommend that when you present the issue to the BOCC, you advise them on the status of all maintenance, flight safety checks completed to lower any potential risk. Also be reminded that we procure liability coverage, but not property coverage for the aircraft. Any damages to the bird would be self-insured as well. Best regards, Steve Bartell.
So he wants us to purchase additional liability insurance?
That's not how I read it, no.
No, he's suggesting that with the self-insured approach, just advise the BOCC on the all the maintenance safety checks that have been performed. That helps to lower the evaluated potential risk.
Correct. And so just to reiterate in his words, it says, request the county, quote, self-insure the potential liability of the short one-day flight.
And commissioners, with risk management reporting up through me as the human resource function, I'm in support of that recommendation, so long as, to Steve's point, all of our logs are current and all of our requirements are met.
So I will, I'll go ahead and, do we need a formal?
I think the only thing we need is like I say, we've informed the board of the plan. If there are no objections, then we will proceed. So I guess that's the question I have of the board members. Do any have any objections to what we proposed?
No, based on what I heard from the letter, I'm okay. Commissioner Kearns?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I see Chief Ellis is on, and so I know he will inform the flight crew that they are good to go.
Hi, Chief Ellis.
Commissioner, how are you?
He's sitting there very stoic.
I'm just here to assist.
Okay, very good. Well, you'll let them know then that you've got 2 commissioners that are willing to move ahead.
I will do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda, we have Doug Chase. I'm not seeing, oh, there's Doug.
There we go. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing, Doug?
Good, thank you. I have a very brief rebrief, if you will, on the Soccer Association agreement. You may recall I brought this before the board and briefed back on February 14th. Following that briefing, the Soccer Association identified a handful of changes specifically to Section 24 within the agreement, where they felt it was very important to make a few last-minute adjustments. And so I just want to share those with you. We've worked with them. Legal and myself have worked with the association to come up with the verbiage. And in this section, it's specific to working with third parties. And the prior language would have required the county to sign off on all of the various groups that they may rent the property out to, if you will. They do a lot of subletting and renting out there. And so the changes, what they do is they call out kind of their key partners or those key third parties that they've been working with and have long established relationships with. So we've identified those as essentially, approved for them to work with. That provides them with a great comfort level from a business model standpoint, where they are not required to have that extra approval, but all other users not listed, if you will, in this section still would require that approval, which would not unreasonably be withheld. And so the association is very happy with this. In fact, we have the updated version with these changes signed and in hand. And if all is well, I will work to place this on the consent agenda a week from tomorrow for the board's consideration.
Commissioner Kearns, any questions or comments?
Sounds good to me. We've got a good group out there that runs the facility, and if Doug thinks it's a good idea too, that's good enough for me.
I'm
Great.
happy to move forward with it as well. So thank you, Doug.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you very much, board. That's all I have.
Okay. Have a good afternoon or a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Next on the agenda, we've got Jeff McMorris and Arian Schmidt on an ARP planning update.
Hey, Commissioner. Arian, if you could promote Arian, and she'll be stepping out of her training, so she'll be in who knows what location. Just wanted to remind you quickly, we did put up the first RFP last week for a consulting firm to help with application process, review, and reporting. That will be open till April 6th. And then next week, we'll bring before you a couple of the first ARPs that will actually be external facing for organizations in the community to apply towards. We're planning on bringing forward the addressing educational disparities RFP for consideration, as well as the water transmission and distribution within the infrastructure category. So we will be bringing those to you next week for first consideration. Once those are ready, we will post those also. We do plan on posting those before we get the consulting agreement in place. It'll give us lessons learned that will inform the process as we actually set up the online application system eventually. So that's my quick update. If there's no questions, I'll throw it over to Arian.
I don't have any questions at this point. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's nice to see you. I wanted to just give a brief update about another document that we are constructing. It is a memorandum of understanding between Spokane County and the small municipalities of the South County. This memorandum of understanding will be a small document that will just artifact the desire for the county and those small cities to work together towards the opportunities for broadband infrastructure solutions as we go forward that may have the opportunity to utilize ARP funds as a match source in other opportunities, whether that be the state or other federal broadband. We have a draft of that, but we wanted to make you aware of that document and that the other cities are very much in support of this, having Spokane County be a part of it. Any questions or also direction on how you would like us to proceed with formalizing that document so that we can then get it on the legislative agendas for those small cities in the coming weeks?
So, and just so Commissioner Kearns knows, this is like City of Fairfield, City of Rockford, City of Latah, City of Waverly, and City of Spangle. It's the 5 cities down in Southeast County that are looking at wanting to work together to bring broadband down to their area. I think the school districts are both very much in favor of this as well, which is part of the 3 million I know I kind of tried to set aside was for the match for this, because it's actually working together to go after commerce funds through the broadband, that if we're the lead for them, then we have a better opportunity, we think, to get those funds, because it's showing that we've got several municipalities coming together with the county to seek the funding. And so that's, I think, part of why getting the MOU just solidifies for me that all those mayors are working together with us and before we put in for any of that. So that's kind of some of the behind the scenes going on with what this request is.
Okay, so you referenced an MOU, but I mean, Arian, you're talking about a letter, I mean, on the ledge agenda. So I mean, just so I have this, they essentially want to to confirm or clarify that we can use ARP as match for additional funding, correct? Is that what I understood you said?
We've already confirmed the use of eligibility. This just formalizes that the effort is a collective among Spokane County and those cities that Commissioner Cuny listed. And I think it just will help clear the way so that the cities don't feel like they're having to entertain things individually. They all have a artifact that they can send interested stakeholders to Jeff or myself as we go forward with commerce broadband solicitations, federal broadband solicitations, because right now things are just fairly informal. And Spokane County Legal has a draft document of that. We're just doing a review of it, but wanted the commissioners to be aware and maybe in the study session, just give the consent that once it's finalized to have Commissioner Cuny sign so that way we could present to the small cities elect so that they could review it and sign it as well. Or if you would prefer for it to come back in formal session next week for approval.
No, I mean, I think it's okay. I mean, it's not committing us to spending any dollars. It's just saying we support their effort here to work as a whole. No, I think that's fine.
Okay.
So I guess the question we were talking to Jim and Macio last week is probably part of the intent though is to see if, just to expedite the process so they can get it on their legislative agenda, if you're okay with me signing that agreement at other than an open public meeting as chair of the board and as the commissioner representing that district.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Do we need a motion, Mark?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to state that motion for me?
Yeah, so Madam Chair, I move that we approve the drafting and signing of a document to, then I might kick it over to Arian to fill in what the document is.
To artifact a collective agreement to move forward as county and interested small cities for broadband opportunities.
Okay, to be signed by the chair of the board at other than an open public meeting.
Thank you. I will second that. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 2-0. Thank you. Okay, so with that, then it takes us to miscellaneous. I guess you're.
Let's see, we've got a question on the GSI table for the state of the city, as well as a hearing room update by Jared, and I've got a couple of items as well. I think this is just confirming. So we've got a state of the city of Spokane is on April 27th. And I believe the county has generally reserved a table. So just wanted to confirm with the commissioners, that's still the case for this year. And then Jeff can advise if there's anything within the commissioners just recently signed a new agreement with GSI that provides for some different partnering arrangements with them and access to events and whatnot. I'm not sure, Jeff, is this is the state of the city part of those event tickets that are included, or if there's a separate one?
No, we have 8 tickets, which I assume is an 8 top table for the state of the city, the state of the county, and the economic forecast event that will be later in the year. So this is one of those 3 events. We do have 8 seats. We'll need to communicate with GSI who will be attending.
Okay. So that's any further questions or comments on that one?
So I think we just have to determine who's.
Yep. Who's going to go?
Okay.
Do we know, is it a breakfast or a lunch event?
Lunch. I think it's a lunch.
Okay. Okay.
So, I mean,
we can circulate with the 3 of you just to see who you want to join at the table.
Okay.
Okay.
Because typically I think it's the commissioners, the CEO, Trying to think of who else. I mean, Jeff, I don't know, Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, no, we usually offer it up to our governmental constituent relations managers as well, if they're interested, but I think some of them usually want to go, some of them don't. So, but and then I think we usually have Jared there with us. And then we offer it up to kind of the C-suite if who wants to go. And it's usually if at the end of that we haven't filled all the seats, then we usually just offer it up to any other countywide electeds and say, hey, if you're interested, we've got 1 or 2 or however many seats left. So it's usually within our office first, and then we expand out. So.
Okay.
All right. And Jared, I think you have some encouraging news on the commissioner's hearing room.
I think it's encouraging. I've got an overview of what is working, what's not working, and what our plan is to get the room ready for in-person public meetings on April 11th. So currently, what does work is the podium and the dais computers that have been replaced with much faster units. All the Zoom cameras work, and we've been able to put together an ad hoc sound system so that the microphones do work right now, and the speakers facing the audience works. We still need to test that out, but we're hopeful that it's working. And then the real system will arrive. The last word that we had is July now, but we should be able to make it work until then. What still does not work as of right now is the video wall. Basically everything in the crow's nest, which is where I do the filming, the assisted listening device, and the wireless microphones that we got in there. So with all that said, the room is not ready yet. However, IT and I last Friday asked our vendor, VIP Production, to prioritize putting the video wall and the dais all back together. With those 2 components back together, we should be able to put on a basic meeting similar to what we're doing now in the conference room. Our goal is to have VIP in there this week, putting things together, getting that video wall up and going. And then over the course of the next 2 weeks leading up to April 11th, we would actually go over and start testing the new equipment and receive training on all the new bells and whistles. So we are shooting for April 11th to be functional in that room. And the only asterisk that I would put on this, the only caveat is that even after we do get up and going in April, as equipment trickles in, we may have to temporarily close the room to do those installs of the various technology that we're still missing. So does all that make sense? Do you have any questions?
No, I think that's exciting so we should be able to use that starting April 11th.
That's the plan, but please don't get mad at me if something changes. But we are planning that, and that's the goal that everybody's on the same page with. Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, awesome. No, I think that's going to be great. So that way we can be back, have a review back, and have enough room for the public if they want to be there. So.
And if it's not, I'll get a whipping post ready, and I'll be the sacrifice to that.
Jared's done a good job working with the vendor to try to accelerate some of the prioritized needs. And it's been a challenge with the supply chain issues and component pieces that aren't coming in that they were anticipating. But I think we've got a pretty good path to be able to have that up and functional. Knock on wood that we get everything in line, but they've been doing a good job getting that work prioritized and enabling us to have that by April 11th.
There might be a few wires and things you might have to step over, but I think that for the most part it'll be operational by the 11th.
Okay, and and as we know, I mean, we can be back here. We just have to have the opportunity that if there's more people than we're comfortable with in the conference room, that we can go there and continue our meeting. So So I think that's something we gotta, think about if we want to stay here on Mondays and go over there for the 2 o'clock, just the 2 o'clocks on Tuesdays or what we want to do. But it doesn't mean we have to not be in this room. We just have to have the opportunity that if because I think I said last week that 33 is not a comfortable number for me in this conference room. Even though that's our fire marshal rating, that, we just have to decide what we think that number is, that if we hit that number, then we would be moving if we need to. So, and kind of think through, again, here for the Monday meetings, over there for the 2 o'clock, consent agendas, just to start to get back in the swing of figuring all that out again. I don't know, Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think I envision, our Mondays we'd still be in the conference room, but those Tuesday 2 o'clocks would be over there in the hearing room. I think that's the way that's the way we used to do it, but pre-COVID. So and I think it worked well. I mean, that room is much more conducive to a public hearing. So I envision it though, and we could even do it the same way we did. As soon as the 2 o'clock was over, consent agenda was over, public hearings were done, we walked back over and continued in the conference room. So
Gina, did you have a comment?
Yes, so Mondays from 9 to noon, when Board of Equalization start holding their hearings for the taxes, I believe they start maybe in May until the end of the question. So in the event that we may need to use the room to move over there, are we wanting to let them know in advance to maybe hold their hearings at a different location?
Well, those are things then we need to think through and work out. I mean, so I don't know if everyone heard. So the Board of Equalization is going to start to meet in May on the first Monday of the month. So hopefully our agenda is not such that we're going to have a lot of public coming to our Monday morning meetings. So
Commissioners, I will say the Board of Equalization has already been meeting for the past couple of months. They've been using the HR Learning Center conference room because they have been unable to meet in the hearing room. Our plan is that we see them go back to the hearing room so that the Learning Center can open back up again for our new hire orientations and things like that. So I definitely would want to work on a schedule that makes sense for whole county as we look toward equalization and onboarding in the future when that room is ready.
So as we can see, there's just a lot of coordination that needs to happen and go on. But I'm hopeful that yes, we're not having public hearings on Mondays, so we should be okay staying here in the conference room.
And we'll make sure all those logistics are squared away and presented back to the commissioners in addition to what is likely the comfortable spacing distance in the conference room as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for us just to understand, because you've got the Board of Equalization, you've got the hearing examiner, all those things, now that we haven't been doing all that, it'd be good for us just to kind of get an idea as to what, how much the room's used, when it's used, all of that. So I would appreciate getting informed on that, just so we know.
Okay, I had two other quick updates. So the board will recall that the Spokane Valley City Council had initiated the termination of the tourism promotion area towards the end of 2021. We had understood that there may be some further conversation amongst the Valley City Council as to the effects of what that termination notice did to the entire of the TPA, and they've had some subsequent discussions. I understand they do understand that their triggering of it does terminate the tourism promotion area county-wide as a whole, and would need then to have a repetition process for any restanding up of the tourism promotion area. So they did reaffirm that they understood they want to still move forward with the termination. So that then triggers the county's need to send a letter of notice to the State Department of Revenue so that they're aware that the TPA will terminate December 31st of 2022. We were holding off on that just to allow the valley to have some further conversations. And I think now we're at a point where we can send that letter so that DOR has appropriate notice in advance.
Commissioner Kearns, because I know you're on Visit Spokane and have been, I think, talking with the Valley as well. Your comments on that?
Yeah, so at the last Visit Spokane meeting last week, Councilmember Wick, I mean, confirmed what Scott said. They brought it back up. It was either early last week or the week before. Said they received a staff presentation. They kind of laid out exactly what this means of them, you know, stepping out of this, what that impacts. And Councilmember Wick indicated that there was no objection from anybody on the council, so they're continuing down the path. And from what I understand, I think they understand what that means and they're okay with it. So,
and does Visit Spokane understand what that means?
They absolutely know what it means. Yes.
So everybody knows that now we're at the point. I mean, I was trying to give them time to try to work it out, but we're at the point that they're not going to work it out. So we're ready to send the letter.
That's I believe that is where we're at. Yep. Everybody knows what this means, what this will result in, and that's just where we're at. So
I'm okay with the letter being signed and sent to Department of Revenue.
Yeah, no, the valley is not coming back in, is the best I can see. So they're going to continue with canceling.
So we will then queue up that letter to be sent. The second item was the county has interlocal with Washington State Department of Veteran Affairs that provides for the county to contribute $65,000 a year when Kat Nichols was serving as the state employee for our Veteran Services office here. Now that Kat has been promoted into a new role, which still oversees Veteran Services among some other departments, that we do not need that interlocal agreement any longer. So we would be bringing a resolution forward to the commissioners next week to recognize that, to terminate the ILA, and then we will follow up with a letter to the state Department of Veteran Affairs. They know it's coming. There's been communication between Kat and themselves, and what that'll result in is we will be obligated for the proportionate share of that $65,000 through the end of February, which March 1st is when Kat moved into her new role. So that'll be initiated and brought forth in front of the commissioners. No longer need to have that ILA.
Very good.
So I guess, and I have not talked to Kat, but I know her signature block on her emails. Is she pulling double duty right now? Because it says Senior Director, Spokane County Community Affairs, and Director, Spokane County Regional Veteran Service Center. So is she currently doing both jobs? Is that going to go for a while? Is there an end date to where she 100% shifts over to the new position?
100% shifts over on March 1. I'll connect with Kat on that, but that's she's in her new role as of March 1. And as soon as we send this termination, then that officially ends the other relationship.
Okay.
I mean, the relationship will continue. I want to make sure we highlight that. So she's got Chris Dorchis in her office will continue to stay really closely aligned with the state and all the work that our team does on behalf of our veterans in the community. But the interlocal recovery or the payment of those dollars to the state on behalf of Kat's position with the state will end.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any other miscellaneous items?
I wanted to bring something up. So from what I understand, we need to adopt the new precinct boundary lines by, I believe, April 26th is the date I heard. From what I understand, the draft of those maps will be done April 1st. So we'll have over 3 weeks of those being, having the draft documents and before they need to be adopted. What I was hoping we could do is push those out online as quickly as we can to allow the public the opportunity to review those draft documents. And if anybody sees any errors or something that may have slipped by or something that doesn't quite look right, then the community has the opportunity to maybe submit written testimony to us so we can look at any of the things that any lines that somebody thinks may be in the wrong place or may need adjusted. I mean, I think that kind of the best eyes to have on these are the people that actually live in those precincts. So I just kind of want to bring that up. I think that'd be important for us to get that draft document out there as quickly as possible so folks can look at it. I mean, these are lines that are literally setting boundaries for elected positions that people will run for as precinct committee officers. So usually when we save it till just a public hearing at the end and somebody comes through the day we have to adopt it, and somebody at that point brings forward an issue or a line they think is in the wrong spot, kind of creates an issue when it's got to be adopted that day and someone saying, well, this line's in the wrong place. So I think if we can push that out there, over 3 weeks before it has to be adopted, it can give us an opportunity to actually find out if there's anything that needs corrected and give us time to actually vet that concern and see if it is something that actually does need corrected.
So it's my understanding from the elections office that as soon as they have them finalized, they will put them online.
Okay.
And so they will let us know so we can make sure, everyone, and I think they will also let both parties know here in Spokane County that they are online and available for viewing. With the redistricting for the county as well as for the state, primarily what their lines are just within the precincts that are already there, that it'll be reducing, splitting precincts, which are, pretty much administrative. So they're not, because they can't mess with the boundaries that have been set by the state redistricting or the local redistricting committee. So they won't be messing with any of those lines. It's just within the precincts. And my understanding is primarily splits within the precincts because they have state requirements that they can't be over so many 1,500 registered voters, I believe, in a precinct and all of that. So yeah, the plan is that it'll be up as soon as possible. We'll be notified as well as the parties will be notified. So they know what they are. It's renumbering because of, the legislative numbers and the county district numbers. So there's, definitely going to be renumbering. That's part of all of this. They plan to give us a briefing on April 11th, I think, as soon as we're back. And so then we could adopt it the 19th. We have it scheduled to try to adopt it on the 19th, but if we need to push it, then we can push it to the 26th. So that way, then we have it adopted by the 26th, because that's when it has to be done for giving people the opportunity to look at those and know if they want to file for those positions before filing week. So,
yeah,
so that's kind of the plan.
Yeah, no, I mean, your point to the population, can't have X number of more. I could certainly see some precincts being split just because of population growth that we've seen over the last 10 years. So, I mean, I can rattle off a few off the top of my head that I know are pretty monster precincts out there. So that I'm sure you've walked yourself. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's quite a few that since we've had the census will now be split into two, just strictly based on population growth within certain areas of the community. So,
and the elections office also looks at permits that have been issued so far to since they're doing it, to look to see if there's potential for more people that in that precinct and to split them now rather than continuing to keep splitting each year. So they'll be looking at that as well. So it may not just be hitting that 1,500 as of right now, but looking at what that future is. If there's apartment buildings that are being built, they're looking at that now as well. So, so yes, so that is talking to Mike McLaughlin, the elections manager. They were hoping to get that online as soon as possible. And then get that out to us as the commissioners, get it on our website, as well as informing the parties that, because that's truly what the precinct committees are for, the parties as they look to have people filed for those positions.
Yep. And so I think it'd be important maybe for Jared to post that on our Facebook page, the county Facebook page, and just really encourage folks to, you know, look at your neighborhood, look at your precinct. And if you see something that is wrong or something you think is wrong, I mean, reach out to us. You know, maybe there is nothing wrong and all it takes is kind of an explanation on why a line is where it is. Sometimes it's due to a water district or a fire district or a school district. You know, usually there's a reason, but I think it's more important that that we hear folks out on this, and you know, it gives us an opportunity to maybe correct the record on why a line is where it is compared to sort of why people think it might be where it is. So
yes, and too, just so people do know that yes, that we will have the hearing, that we'll be briefed on it on April 11th. It'll be then before us the following week. I wanted to set that date so that way if there is any issues or problems, then we still have another week to delay it, that we can push it to. So that's why the 11th and the 19th, I believe, are the dates for people.
Yeah, and so based on a phone call I had this morning, I think Mike McLaughlin was saying April 1st is when they expect they'll have the draft maps done. So I'd like to get them out hopefully as quickly thereafter on the website, and if we can push that out to folks to, you know, easier to correct an error if one exists before we adopt it than after. So
okay, very good. Hey, any other? Oh, go ahead, Jared.
I was just is that going to be presented to the commissioners on the 1st, or where do I get the document, I guess is my question, on the 1st to post it?
Mike McLaughlin with the elections manager.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's the elections office that will be posting it, because they have their own page as well. So they will be posting it on their page, I believe.
Oh, so we'll just share that then probably.
Yes. And I think, I mean, it's just as simple as sharing that link and saying, here's the precincts. If, you know, please look at them. If there's something you think needs corrected prior to adoption, please share your comments. So, you know,
and
something like that.
Yes, and you can state that it'll get briefed on April 11th, which could potentially have more people down here than we would like in the conference room. So we, you know, so that's one that I want to make sure that if people want to come down, it's not a public hearing, I guess, so I'm not as worried about it, I guess I shouldn't be. But they can provide public comment to the elections office or to the commissioners. At that time, again, we're not having a public hearing on it, but we're allowing the public to comment on it, just through the elections office or through the commissioners.
Is there a reason you don't want to have a public hearing on it?
There was discussions as to that it's not a requirement, and with having all the public hearings on the for the state redistricting and for the county redistricting, and due to the timing of all of this, we would have had to trying to figure out the noticing of all those public hearings. Having the public hearing, I didn't want to wait till the 26th till our drop dead date in case there was any issues. That's why I was trying to shoot for the 19th. So there wasn't enough time with us being off to do the public hearing and do all the proper noticing.
We could notice it today or tomorrow and have more than enough time to hit that date.
I think public comment is going to be sufficient. It's truly, the precincts are administrative. I mean, they have to follow the state laws regarding it. So really, it's people are going to have questions. And so I think public comment is going to be fine.
Okay, because in the past, when we've split precincts, prior to your joining the commission, we've always had a public hearing just on even splitting precincts.
So there was discussions that went on last Friday with Jim Amacio, with Vicki Dalton, all of that. The consensus was that we would do the public comment.
Okay. So you feel the public hearing isn't necessary, or I mean,
I don't feel it's necessary. I think we've had all the comments through the redistricting process. Those are really the boundaries that are deciding a lot, is this county redistricting and the state redistricting. So again, at this point, the precincts are administrative.
but the precincts also determine boundaries for elected office, being the precinct committee officers.
Okay, well, we could take this conversation up tomorrow with Commissioner French then.
Okay.
If you feel like you want to have a public hearing, and I don't feel the need to have the public hearing, I think the public comment's going to be enough.
Okay, I'm just saying, I mean, traditionally, we have a public hearing for these, and I guess I don't understand what would be different now than in previous times we've done this.
Like I said, my discussions with Jim Amicio yesterday on Friday and Vicki Dalton as the county auditor, that we're not required to have a public hearing.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm not arguing with that whether we're required to or not. I would just, you know, I'm not questioning that. I know we're not required by law.
I feel that we're going to give plenty of time for public comment, that, you know, if there's any issues or inaccuracies in those lines, that people are going to have that opportunity from public comment. You know, because I know the elections office will be getting back to people. That's what I've been told. We'll get back to people. So I feel like there's going to be sufficient time for that. I was worried, I think, because we needed to notice on Friday if it was going to, we were going to put a public hearing on the Tuesday, on tomorrow's agenda. So just with the timing of all of it, that was the determination that was made.
Okay, because it's a 10-day notice, correct, for a public hearing? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, it's 10 days.
I
Okay.
thought, I was told that it had to be on tomorrow's 2 o'clock agenda, that we were doing it since we don't meet the following week, that we were going to be noticing the public hearing.
Aren't we meeting next Monday and Tuesday?
Yes, we are meeting next Monday and Tuesday.
Right.
So if we want to hold the public hearing, so if, for example, if we put it on Tuesday, the 29th, then we can hold the public hearing on April 12th. So if we do the notice of the hearing on the April 12th agenda, then we would hold the hearing on April 26th.
Right, which we didn't want to get to the 26th in case we needed to bump it. So I think that was part of what we were trying to figure out. So I'm okay with just, you know, taking the advice that I got from our council and not doing the public hearing. So again, we can bring this up tomorrow with Commissioner French.
All right, sounds good.
So we'll bring it up under miscellaneous tomorrow. Any other items? Seeing none, then we have two, I think executive committee meetings, or it's not executive session, sorry. So Mark, I will let you just talk about the one that you have.
Thank you. It would be under pending and potential litigation related to the opioid settlement. I have down for 20 minutes. I think we can actually do it in 10 minutes. This would be under 4230-110-1I. We would also like to have the commissioners as well as the executive committee and myself and Dale Anderson in that meeting. And we would anticipate some measure of action after this, likely authorizing an MOU.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. And then Ashley, you have an executive session also.
Yes, so I also have a pending and potential litigation, and this is in reference to the Ethan McMurray estate versus Spokane County mediation. I expect this to take 5 minutes. Present will be the commissioners, Mark McLean, and the executive leadership team, and I do not need action coming out of this.
Okay, should we take Ashley's first and then Mark's second? So when we come out of executive session, then we can take potential action.
That works for me, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, So then we'll be in executive session for approximately 15 minutes. We anticipate we have those two items that we'll be discussing. We anticipate action will be taken as we come out. So it is now 11:05. And we will be out at 11:20, we anticipate. Thank you. Welcome back. It is 11:21 on my watch or my phone, so it's like we extended for 1 minute. We've come out of executive session. We are now back in our normal session. Like I said, it's 11:21, and I will look to, I will say Mark McLean for a motion.
Thank you. I believe the motion would be to approve the memorandum of understanding with One Washington memorandum of understanding between Washington municipalities and permit chair signature at other than an open meeting on the MOU.
For what purpose?
For settlement of the opioid litigation.
I will make that motion.
I will second that motion. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 2-0. Thank you. Any other items to come before the board today? Seeing none, we will adjourn. It is 11:22. We will reconvene tomorrow at 2 o'clock for our Tuesday, March 22nd, 2 o'clock consent agenda. Thank you all very much.